Alright guys, so now we're at the point where ClearOS is already installed, we're ready to go. We start configuring stuff on the ClearOS system. So first thing you want to do is click on the DHCP server, and let's check what settings we have here. Now remember, you're going to log in. As you can see, mine kicked me out already, I've waited too long. You're going to log in with the username root and the password. And actually, let me go ahead and put that in full screen mode. That way you can still see all the addresses and stuff I'm typing in here. Make it a little bit easier. Alright, log in. Yeah, I'm going to have it remember my password because I'm tired of typing it in. Alright, so in the DHCP, you can see that it is set to enable. Interface is your 0 interface, but the status is disabled. So what we're going to do is go up to your IP settings, and let's just view what we have set up here. Well, here's your static, that's your external, but this is your Ethernet. This is where everybody's supposed to be getting on the internet with. So you're going to go add, and we're just going to give it an IP address. The last one was 35, we're going to call this one 36, so that's 192.168.36.1. That's going to be your new gateway. So we're going to add. Boom. So there's your LAN interface. So now this is the part, Ethernet 0 is going to be where the internet's coming in at. Ethernet 1 is where the internet's coming out at. Alright? And we're going to go back to DHCP server. And now you have it. It's set up twice. So you can see there's two different devices here. And you can then surf the internet through 36 through the firewall. Now, we're going to do DNS servers. Click on that. Just want to make sure that the DNS server has been added in here. And then SSH. You really don't need SSH even turned on because you can do everything through the GUI. But this is where you would go for SSH. And as you can see, it's currently running. You click this button to stop it. But as you can see, the allow connections and everything have not been done. So you should be fine. We're going to go under System. And then here's where I was telling you about the software updates. So once you click on software updates, it will then run it. It's normally set to automatically do the updates, so you really never have to touch this firewall ever again. But we're going to need to install some added applications to this machine. So what you're going to do is from any one of these windows, you can click the application details, and then it'll take you over to the marketplace. So we want to filter by categories. Let's do networks. And what it's doing is it's going to query the marketplace. The marketplace is seriously, it's just like, I guess the best way to say it's just like your app store on your phone, as you can select it. And some of these are free because, like, you know, this one here is free, that's free. Then some of these you have to actually pay for. And as you can see, a lot of these already come pre-installed. So what you would do is you can put your mouse over these things and select it. And then after selecting it, you can, it adds it to the, what they call like the basket, which will allow you to just keep throwing more and more stuff on that basket. Now you can load, let's say, the bandwidth manager. That's actually a really good one. In fact, let's do it a different way here, because this is actually the slow way, the way I'm doing it. You can go down to Feature Wizard if I remember correctly. There we go. And Feature Wizard will allow you to go through each one of these by itself. So you definitely want to do a directory server if you have, let's say, multiple people, multiple users in the environment. If it's your home network, you can get away with not using that. Number two, some things that you might want to use here. Well, pretty much none of these you really would want to use for your home network. I'm using a free VPN for me to use VPN on my phone to log in to my home network remotely via my phone. So let's say I'm running a backup to my server at home, I can just VPN in and then run backups on my phone. But you really don't need to use anything here either. Now, here's where the stuff comes in at. You want your anti-phishing, you want your gateway antivirus, your intrusion detection, your intrusion prevention system. These are the hallmarks that you're going to need. Now, the gateway antivirus is actually pretty cool. It doesn't mean that you don't need to run antivirus on your machines, but what it does mean is that as files are being brought down, it will be scanned. I think I've seen it where anything over 120 megabytes, it actually pops up and says, this file is too big to scan on the fly. Please download it to allow it to be scanned. So it's not like 100% every time, but you know, it still gets the job done. Move over to the next one here. You got your gateway antivirus, like you said, it was already chosen from before. Content filter engine. You can do a filter and proxy server, web access control. Very good if you have a home network. I'll explain how that works a little bit later. Then you got these things here you really don't need to worry about. Oops, click it twice. Next page. Come on, next page. There we go. Then you have your PC backup application. You want to use your disk usage report just to see how much space is going to be used. This also helps you with the PC backups or whatever, and this is their remote backup services for cloud storage if you chose to do that. You really don't need to. Moving on. If you have Dropbox, you could do Dropbox syncing, which means that if you have a Dropbox account out there, your Dropbox would be set up on your firewall so that whatever gets uploaded to the firewall will sync across. Plex Media Server. If you wanted to, you could load Plex Media Server or a BitTorrent client onto your actual firewall, and everything would go on your firewall. So I've tried the Plex Media Server. I actually run my own media server on my own machine. I don't run it off of the firewall, but I've tried it just to see what it looks like. Well, basically what happens is that you would have to use this on a machine that has a lot of space. So let's say you have 50 extra gigs just to drop new movies and music on. You would drop it there, the Plex server would then service it out, and then anybody who has access to the firewall can then see your media server. So you don't have to actually have a Plex server sitting off on its own. Your firewall can become your own Plex server. So that's actually really cool too. All right, so now that we've done all this stuff, we want to do the installation. And I'm going to give just a quick rundown of each one of them. The bandwidth manager you really don't need in the sense that you get to see the bandwidth that comes across your network. As you saw, the content filter does the grand number, but this will tell you the bandwidth of each individual user. Your content filter is what I was telling you, that you have the content filter up there already with a blacklist that's set to stop you from getting out to certain places. This is the one that actually reads the internet as it comes across. Your disk usage one is great because you're going to be caching a lot of stuff to your machine, so you want to see how much hard drive space is actually being used. Your filter and proxy reporting is to get a report off of what's going on in your network. Anti-phishing is to find sites that are, like when you click on, let's say, a link on Facebook and it says like 100 Facebook users clicked on this link and it changed their lives. And when you click on it, it takes you back to a fake Facebook login page. This anti-phishing gateway will notice that you went to a site that did that and block that site, so you won't be able to get to those kind of websites. Your gateway antivirus, like I already said, it will scan files on the fly. Doesn't necessarily mean you can be on the internet without an antivirus, but it does mean that it is at least looking at the files coming across, so you have lowers the likelihood of viruses coming onto your network. Intrusion detection system will actually pop off and say, hey, I saw somebody coming on our network at this time. And then the prevention system, it'll actually do preventative measures to block access, and then the web access control just to be able to log in remotely and do all these things. So download and install, and you're pretty much done. Now, if you remember on the content filter, there was a lot of stuff you had to do command line wise. This is actually non-command line. It's fall off the log easy. I'm going to go ahead and let this run, and as soon as it finishes, we'll go ahead and come back to the video and I'll start showing you how to configure these things out. Alright, so as you can see, everything's done. But like I said, it's a lot easier than the smooth wall. Everything's all gooeyed on here, so it's really nice. So as you can see here, we don't have anything listed. So let's do the old refresh of the screen. There we go. refresh of the screen, and you will see, boom, everything. And here's the other good thing I like about it, is that you'll see it puts these little markers and it lets you know this app has been either upgraded or installed. So now you know where to go to read some of the stuff that came up. So let's start off with the anti-phishing gateway. Now, as you can see, there's not much more you can actually do here, but these are enabled, signature engines, and you can actually go here and disable whichever one you want. Block cloaked URLs. So if you're going to, I mean, this is something that it's few and far between, but if you're, let's say, a web developer and you do a lot of making web pages at home and you're trying to use ways to cloak your URLs and it's not working, you want to go here and make sure you disable that. I know that sometimes I'll make websites under fake names for clients, and then I have to make sure that I turn this off when I'm doing my development, because if not, I can't get to the pages because my anti-phisher will actually kill it. Next up, your gateway anti-firewall thing here. Now, as I was telling you, the maximum size, right, 100 megabytes. It updates every hour, and your maximum recursive zip is 10. Your maximum files are, what's that, 10,000? And you can go ahead and edit this as well. You can make it to whatever size that they can allow it to be run. You want to run this hourly, and that's going to look for any new intrusion issues that might be coming up on the internet. Some people go, oh, I want to look daily, but you really don't want to make it do it that many times, because the problem is that when you do it, let's say daily, and something new comes out and it takes over the internet, you won't know till the next day that that thing's actually running wild on the internet. So you really want to keep that at hourly. I generally don't change any of these settings either. Let's go over to your content filter. Now, in the content filter here, you may or may not want to do anything with it. Like currently right now it's set to stopped. And actually, let's go over your anti-phishing and make sure that's turned on here. Alright, so as you can see, it's on because there's no option. Antivirus. Okay, shows that it's on, there's no options. So let's go into your content filter. Content filter is currently set to stopped. You can start it by clicking this little button here, and that will tell it to come on. It has some banned IP addresses that you can put in here. You have to add them one at a time. I don't like using this particularly because of the fact that, like I was saying before, that this it's a little bit harder to run the content filter we're currently running. But like I was saying, you can load it. It has default policies, and you can add exclusions to that as well if you want to use it. I'm just going to leave it as stop because there really isn't a need for us to turn it on. Web access control. You can do, if you have at home Active Directory, you can actually log this into your Active Directory, which would then allow your computers access to the internet via whatever your settings are, and you can enforce day and time web access. But you know, most people don't have directories at home, but this is for those small business people who want to run it. Here's your web proxy. Web proxy is enabled into transparent mode. It's currently stopped. We can start it by just clicking that guy there. And it's going to rewind around. And it's currently set to disable for YouTube for schools. It's tuned for home networking performance level. Now, the way a web proxy works, because you do have a web proxy on your content filter as well, is that it will cache objects that you normally go to make the internet run a little bit faster. Now the thing is, when you have two of them running at the same time, I haven't noticed the internet running like entirely like super fast. But the reason why I have two running, especially on my network, is that I've noticed that the smooth wall will miss some things while this one is a catch-all. So anything that's already pre-cached, I've noticed it doesn't get cached again on the ClearOS. So every once in a while you might have a site that doesn't get caught up, and this will be like the final catch-all for any other content that you're trying to reach. You can have it on, have it off, it's just more so personal preference. Here's your intrusion detection system, and here's all the places that it normally looks for people to break into your network. So it's designed to actually, detect these are normal areas where people come in it. You can also set rules on your peer-to-peer stuff and your online chatting protocols if you so feel the need to. I don't feel the need of changing anything. And then your intrusion prevention, it will tell you whitelist of different users that you allow into your network, and then the block list. It will tell you what they were blocked, what this MAC address is, and what time they tried to log into your network. So you generally will never go into this area, but if, let's say, like I'm on Comcast, I've gotten emails from Comcast saying that their security was compromised and hackers have hacked into people's machines, and that it's highly recommended that people reboot their routers. I normally would then check here, and if I don't see anything on this block list, then they didn't make it to my network and I'm good to go. All right, next up, you want to go over to your bandwidth manager. All right, so here's your bandwidth manager, and you have different rules you can have. So let's go ahead and you can sit there and change rules around for different traffics and things of that nature that you're trying to do. So let's do HTTP, and then you can tell it how much you want to actually limit or how much you want to reserve for it. So let's say that you have voice over IP, right? Or you have Skype. I think Skype might be on the list. It's common enough. Nope, I don't see Skype. But you do have your they didn't have voice over IP on here unless I'm missing it. Anyways, the purpose of it is that, let's say you have HTTP, right? Or let's see what else we got on this, which is more than likely what you guys might be wanting to use this for. You can then enable it, let's say, for OpenVPN or SSH. What way it will work is that if you set it to, let's just put it to HTTP just because I just want something simple, then the way it will work, I can set a rate to how much bandwidth I want to reserve, and then when I set that bandwidth I want it to reserve, it will then tell the internet, hey, if everybody's BitTorrenting, if everybody's surfing the web, if everybody is on like Netflix, I don't care how much bandwidth they use, I want to reserve 20% of all my bandwidth for this particular service. That way it guarantees you'll always have that service available for anything. At the same time, like, you can also set it to limit bandwidth. So let's say that you have a lot of people that are on your network, and your kids are sending a lot of files, or people on your network are sending a lot of files via a chat protocol. You can sit down and put down, let's say you have a chat protocol, I mean, I could just pick IRC just to make things simple. So let's say that you're ICQ AIM, right? Oh, get away. ICQ AIM. So let's say a lot of people are sending stuff back and forth. Well, you don't need a whole heck of a lot of bandwidth. So you can say 5% of the bandwidth is guaranteed for ICQ AIM, which is instant messenger. So when you limit it to 5, all of the chats and stuff, text going back and forth, will go through fine. But when they start sending pictures and files and videos back and forth via the chat protocol, it will actually limit it to that 5%, thereby stopping them from taking over the entire network. It's a pretty cool little rule that you can actually set up. And then you have your little advanced rules here as well. Advanced rules are more so what you want to do if you want to get like everything done correctly. So the nickname would be Skype, and then you would put in you can put in your source or destination IP addresses. So you can put in the IP addresses of people who are on the network, and then you can tell it what port. So let's say Skype's port is 45.6 and 192.168.36.55. So let's say 55 is a user. Then 55, who's using this address or this port, and then I can tell it what rate and what's the max they can get. And then what that would do is anything coming out of that port, it's limited. Now, this also works very well for if, let's say, you have kids who surf the web all the time. You could set it to, let's say, port 80, which is your surfing the web port. And if you change it to port 80, and set their bandwidth to only 50, and it's set to the IP address of their computer or their phone, then no matter how much they try to surf the web, they're only going to get a limited amount of internet speed, so they aren't bogging down your internet. But that's enough of that section. I can go on to that one for hours on end about how to set up things. Next thing you want to do, let's do disk usage. This you just need to run every once in a while. As you see, this is going to take several minutes to run. But what it does is that it goes through and it tries to find out how much storage is being used on your computer. There you go. So remember I made a 30 gig hard drive? Well, it's only using 1.5 gigs right now. And then it's telling you how much space is being used for all the different things that are currently on there. None of this stuff you really need to know offhand. I just like having it because I think it's pretty darn cool to have all this information at your fingertips. Especially with it being a virtual machine, you can increase this file space. If you see this is getting way out of space, you can always flip it around and add more space to it. So it's just something I like having. And then your last one here is your filter and proxy report. Same thing here. There's nothing to report because, you know, obviously there's nothing going through the network because this is a brand new network. But you can get traffic summaries, warning summaries, the top IPs, which is the top people who are online. If you had users set up on your network, then it will tell you who are your top users. More than likely you won't do that, but you'll know what your top IPs are, and those IPs will tell you what name of the computer or device that's being used, and they'll tell you what top websites are being gone to, and if there's any malware that's been detected across the network. I normally run this once a month just to get an idea of what's going on and seeing what's going on. So you can do the last 30 days. And I do it once a month just to see what are some of the top websites we go to as a family, and just be able to get a good glimpse and think, okay, cool. If, let's say, you know, I'm one of the users on the network and one of the top websites is none of the sites I go to, then there's a good chance that somebody might have hacked into the network and they are going through and, you know, sending stuff out to other websites. It's happened before where I'll be looking at this report, and before I did all the extras that I showed you how to do in this whole video series, I would go to this top report and say, how come this Russian website keeps showing up as one of our top websites? And what I did is like, all right, let me go over here. I'm going to add an intrusion detection and prevention system. And what happens is I went over here and I saw that I needed to set up these things here by having a blocked list and the intrusion detection piece. And I turned this on. And when I turned it on and I came back and I looked at the 7-day report, all of a sudden that website fell off because somebody was coming through the network. So then what I did is I found out the person's IP address and I made sure they were blocked. But like I said, guys, this is giving you a lot of tools to really manage your network. But like I've been telling you, once you set it, you can just walk away from this and never touch it again. But I can tell you that as a person who has a family who comes and visits, I have family family and friends that come and visit us. I have a family of my own. I work in IT. I can tell you this is the future that people are going to need to start taking their home network seriously, because you have your social security number, you have your credit card information on your computer, and if you don't load software like this to block these people from coming in, it's going to make it open season. Right now, I can Google the username and password to a Comcast modem, the username and password to almost any router that's out there on the network, and know how to break in. And once I break in, all that information is mine. But once you have this kind of information set up on your network, it's just too much work for most people. They go, man, this guy got too much security. I'm not even going to bother trying to break in. They don't want the challenge. And what we're doing is offering people a challenge so they can't get to your information very easily. So we're going to go ahead and end this video here about setting up and configuring all of the ClearOS. I'm going to go into how to do a quick little video about setting up your router so you can put all this in place. And then after setting up the router, we're going to go into troubleshooting basically all of your systems.